Welcome to Barca News. It is May 27, 2026, and we have a crazy day because we officially have the first Barcelona signing of this summer transfer market 2026 because Barcelona have officially signed Anthony Gordon from Newcastle. But that's not it because we have more things to talk about. Of course, that will be the main news, but there's more because there's more developments on the Julian Alvarez front. And also an academy kid could be leaving this summer. I'm going to tell you who it is. We have a lot to discuss. So let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Boo, and welcome to the Barca News podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but I also get to interact with you lovely people, my Barca News family, by reading your comments in the chat section live and reacting to them. So start filling out the chat section with your comments, your questions, anything you have on your mind, which I see already all of you are talking about the Anthony Gordon signing, and don't worry, that's going to be the first topic in this podcast. Now, for those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news, even though I don't recommend that because, of course, a discussion, or at least to me, it's my favorite part. It's the best part because we all get to talk about, well, the club that we love in the chat section, which is FC Barcelona. Now, having said all of that, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All this helps the channel continue to grow. If you're looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to Goal Kids, Kickback, or Fanatics. If you're looking to play steady sports bets, make sure to bet us. All links are down below in the description, and click on them. You get access to deals and offers that otherwise you would not get access to if you went straight to those sites without using the links. All right, now with the intro out the way, I know you guys are here for the big bombshell news today, which is that, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona have secured their first signing of the summer transfer market, which is not even open yet, but that's how quickly Barcelona acted on this because the club have officially signed Anthony Gordon. Let's go. First signing of the summer is the 25-year-old English attacker who is mainly a left winger but can also play on the right wing and as a center forward, someone that Barcelona had been tracking for quite some time, especially after the two legs that we played against them in the Champions League, actually three if you count the group stages. So we played against Newcastle 3 times during this Champions League. Of course, Anthony Gordon was a pain in our ass, and he made really good impressions on Barcelona's scouts and sporting department. And as such, he came under Barcelona's radar. And well, now he is officially a Barcelona player. Now, let's look real quick at Anthony Gordon's stats because, well, they are pretty interesting for someone who has played at Newcastle. But this is currently Anthony Gordon's stats for this 2025-2026 seasons. 17 goals and 5 assists in all competitions for 6 goals in the Premier League with 2 assists. And this is where the impressive number is for me. 10 goals in the Champions League with 2 assists. That to me is very impressive because it tells you that this player can compete in the Champions League. And why is this important? Because this is exactly what we're looking for. We're not looking for players who would be great in La Liga. We already have that. We have a team that's dominating Spain. How do I know? Well, we won La Liga, the Cup, and the Super Cup last season. That's the all 3 trophies available at the national level. This season, we won La Liga again and the Super Cup. Now, we came really close in the Copa, but unfortunately, refereeing decisions, etc., didn't prevent us from making it to the final. But again, we do have a strong core team that's dominating Spain. So that is a check in Barcelona's box. Now we need to be looking at the next step, players that can compete in the Champions League, players that can help us compete and go further in the Champions League and hopefully eventually win it. And this, of course, 10 goals and 2 assists tells you that this player can compete in the Champions League. And of course, not only looking at these numbers, again, he did score a goal against us in the group stage in the Champions League. And he also caused us a lot of heartache in all 3 matches that he played against us. Now, you might think, well, Mo, I don't know. I'm not convinced by 17 goals and 5 assists. Well, if you look at Newcastle have not been that great this season. I think they finished 12th in the Premier League. And we have a team that's not doing well. The fact that a player can't score those goals, it actually becomes more impressive because, you know, you can't just look at numbers in a vacuum. You have to look at the context around them. And there's a big difference of scoring, for example, 10 goals at Barca versus 10 goals at Rayo Vallecano. That's a lot more difficult to do that at Rayo Vallecano when you're surrounded by bums, right? At Barca, 10 goals, it's actually pretty easy. When you have someone like Lamine Yamal feeding you balls, someone like Pedri, someone like Rafinha, it becomes a lot easier. So you can't just look at goals alone. You have to look at the context around them. And to me, 17 goals, 5 assists with 10 of them, 10 of those goals coming in the Champions League, I think it's an important number. Perhaps it's not a mind-blowing number where you're like, oh my God, but it's definitely an important number because that begs the question. If Anthony Gordon can do that in a Newcastle that wasn't that brilliant this summer, what will he be able to do with Hansi Flick as his coach, with Pedri on the same team, with Lamine Yamal on the same team, with Fermin Lopez on the same team? You see where I'm going with this. But anyways, that's not all I want to talk about. Of course, let's talk about how this whole situation developed because Barcelona acted very, very quickly in signing Anthony Gordon. Now, Anthony Gordon is someone that Barcelona met with 3 weeks ago. In fact, I made a video about that before everybody and their mother was talking about Anthony Gordon. This is not to pump my chest, but actually it is. Anyways, 3 weeks ago, Deco met with Anthony Gordon's agent to feel out the player. Is Barcelona a destination that Anthony Gordon would be interested in joining? And during that meeting, well, the answer was yes. Anthony Gordon, through his agent, told Deco that yes, he would like to join Barcelona. But of course, there was that big question mark of whether Barcelona would be able to pay the 80 million euros that most likely Newcastle would ask for. And it stayed at that, right? We talked about that for a couple of videos. And then we didn't really hear much about Anthony Gordon until today. Because as of yesterday, both Liverpool and Bayern Munich began to make moves in the market to sign Anthony Gordon. So immediately Deco was like, that's my guy. You are not taking him away from me. And Deco acted very quickly, flying to London last minute to meet with the player and his agent. Immediately, Deco secured a personal agreement with Anthony Gordon on all personal terms. And then once that was secured, Deco immediately switched his attention to Newcastle, where Barcelona offered 70 million euros fixed with a 10 million euros in variables. And that offer later in the day was approved by Newcastle's board and their Saudi owners. And as such, the agreement was reached with both the player and the club. And Anthony Gordon will become a Barcelona player, of course, pending that medical exam. Now, Barcelona want to wrap up the whole operation before Anthony Gordon flies to the World Cup, because obviously he has been called up by England, and it's expected that he will undergo the medical exam this week. They're even saying Anthony Gordon could be flying from England to Barcelona as soon as tomorrow to undergo all the medical exams. If he passes those exams, of course, he will officially become a Barca player because, again, Barcelona want to wrap up this operation before Anthony heads to North America for the 2026 World Cup. Now, what do we have? What can Anthony Gordon offer Barcelona besides those goals that we looked at? Well, he's a versatile player, right? As I mentioned, he can play on the left wing. That's his main position. But he can also play on the right, and he can also play as a center forward. What else? As we saw from the matches that he played against us. Again, I'm not going to come here act as an expert that I've seen every Newcastle match this season, and I'm the biggest Anthony Gordon expert that I've seen him since he was 5 years old and been tracking his career. All I can go off is those 3 matches that I saw him play against us in the Champions League. And so what else do we have besides versatility? Aggressive pressing. We saw that very clearly across all 3 matches against Barca. And of course, he also offers physicality and speed, which we also saw him against Barca. We saw him beat our offside line several times with his speed and when physicality. He is a pretty big and strong boy. So versatility, aggressive pressing, physicality, and speed. What does all that translate into? Well, a pretty good fit in Hansi Flick's system. And in fact, it's reported that Hansi Flick approved him himself. Flick said, yes, bring me Anthony Gordon. So Deco said, I got you, man. This time I'm actually going to bring you what you're asking for and not go and sign, I don't know, a water boy when you are requesting a left winger. So with Hansi Flick's blessing, Deco, of course, acted quickly, securing the agreement with the player and then eventually with Newcastle. Now, this is also important. This is also important in the greater scheme of things because the signing of Anthony Gordon is not the end of Barcelona's summer transfer market. In fact, it's only the beginning. Barcelona have, through people who work at the club, ensured that there will be more signings. Just because we signed Anthony Gordon, it doesn't mean that this is it. We pack our bags and our summer transfer market is closed. No, Barcelona will continue to work on the signings of Julian Alvarez and Joao Pedro to see which one they can close first. Of course, not both. There's no way we can sign both. But they're going to continue working with both players to try to sign one of them and see which one is closed first, which, by the way, we do have developing news on the Julian Alvarez front that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But why is the signing of Anthony Gordon important for the signings of Joao Pedro and Julian Alvarez? Well, it's important because it gives us a leg up on the negotiation table. Why is that? Everybody knows that Barcelona need to reinforce their attack, right? This is very, very clear. Hansi Flick has said it left and right during his press conferences. We know that for a fact. So how does the Anthony Gordon signing help us? Well, like I just said, he's a versatile player. He could play as a left winger, as a center forward, and as a right winger. He's a pretty good player as well. So when you go to negotiate with Atletico Madrid over Julián, when you go to Chelsea to negotiate over Joao Pedro, you're in a much better position to negotiate when you've already secured a big signing. You no longer seem as desperate. You now say, hey, I'm here for Julián. You don't want, if I can get him, great. If not, that's okay. I just signed Anthony Gordon. So you guys tell me what you want to do. You go to Chelsea. Hey, Chelsea, I would like to sign Joao Pedro. It would be nice to have him. But if not, that's okay. I have Anthony Gordon. I just sign him. So this for sure opens gives Barcelona a leg up in the negotiations because now Barcelona are not in desperate need to sign someone. They just signed someone. So it gives us a more time and it gives us a better negotiating stance as when we go to negotiate for Julián or Joao Pedro, which again, we do have to talk about Julián in a little bit. But anyways, that is the news, ladies and gentlemen. Barcelona have reached an agreement with Anthony Gordon to join Barcelona on a 5-year contract. That means this is a long-term bet. Barcelona are not looking at Anthony Gordon as a temporary solution. No, this is a long-term bet. Barcelona have reached an agreement with the player to join for a 5-year contract. They have reached an agreement with Newcastle to pay them $70 million fixed plus $10 million in variable. Anthony Gordon could be flying as soon as tomorrow to Barcelona to undergo the medical exams. And we officially have our first signing of the summer transfer market. Now, if you ask me, Mo, what do you think about this signing? I got to be honest. I feel like it's a little bit expensive. 80 million euros total package. Excuse me. To me, I feel that it's a little bit expensive. But time will determine that. Why? Because at the end of the day, what's expensive and what's cheap, it really depends on the player's performance. Let's take Pedri, for example. We signed him for 20 million euros, right? Had Pedri failed, flopped, and been, terrible midfielder, we would be saying 20 million is expensive. We just wasted 20 million down the drain on a flop. But instead, Pedri has become the best midfielder in the world. And all of a sudden, 20 million, it's still the same amount. It hasn't changed. Still 20 million. All of a sudden, that 20 million that could have been expensive had he flopped, all of a sudden it's an absolute steal. You know, to sign the best midfielder in the world for 20 mil, absolute steal. So as of now, as of today, May 27, 2026, I do think 80 million is a lot. But obviously Anthony Gordon can end up coming to Barca and killing it, and then it's not going to seem as expensive. Now, why do I say it's expensive? You might say, Mo, that's just how the market works. Because I'm still not clear on what Barcelona have signed Anthony Gordon for. Now, he is mainly a left winger, but he can also play on the right and as a center forward. Obviously, he's not going to play on the right. That's Lamine Yamal's spot. That guy got that position on lock. So it's either going to be the left wing or the center forward. If it's the left wing, it seems to be a little bit expensive to spend 80 million euros on someone that can potentially be Rafinha's substitute, right? Unless, of course, the plan is for Anthony Gordon to be the starter. In that case, why do we pay 66 million for Rafinha to be a sub? Anyways, if it's for the center forward position, okay, then maybe not as bad as spending 80 for a sub for the left wing. But I'm just spitballing here. Again, this just has to do with the actual figure. I'm not talking about the player himself or what he could offer. It's just what my first impressions of spending 80 million, well, 70 fixed and 10 variables, but let's be honest, variables always end up getting paid. So let's just say 80 seems to be a little bit high. But again, this could change depending on the player's performance. Now, as the player himself, I'm happy with this signing. I think Anthony Gordon at 25 years old, with what I've seen from him at Newcastle against us, I think Anthony Gordon can offer us that extra edge to be able to compete in the Champions League. And of course, as always, as with any signing, I hope and pray and wish that Anthony Gordon can be extremely successful in the club, that he can help our team become more competitive. I think he will. Let's hope I am correct, because I'm very excited about this signing, whether 70 or 80 million is too expensive or cheap or whatever. Setting that aside, I think this is a signing that will make the team better, more competitive, and stronger. But of course, I'm just one guy. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down below in the chat section or in the comment section if you're watching this when it ends. Anthony Gordon, what do you think? Yay, nay, maybe, too expensive, too cheap, good price? Give me your thoughts. I want to hear them. I want to hear your thoughts about Barcelona's first official signing of summer 2026. The Englishman, Anthony Gordon. All right, let's do the comment section. Then we do have some developments on the Julian Alvarez front, because it's not looking as difficult or as impossible as it did a few weeks ago, because things continue to change, and they are changing rapidly on a Julian Alvarez front. What a mess, by the way. What a mess. I don't know who advises that guy, who advised him to renew with City and then go to Atlético. I don't know. But anyways, we'll talk about it in a little bit. Let's look at the comments, because Nathan says this is going to be a problem with Barca's financial fair play, but we will see how it goes. If Barcelona achieve the 1-to-1 rule, which they are set to achieve the 1-to-1 rule, according to people at the club and even people at La Liga, it shouldn't be, right? Because because under the 1-to-1 rule, it's much, 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 much easier to register players. For every euro that you free up on a wage bill, you could use it entirely to register someone else. Before, that wasn't the case. I think it was 20%. So if a player who earned 10 million leaves, you can only use 2 million to register someone else. That is difficult, right? Now, Lewy's leaving, he's going to free up 24 mil. If we can use the full 24 mil to register someone, well, we should be able to register Anthony Gordon easily, because he's not going to come earning 24 mil a year as Lewandowski. Kula Mustafa says, happy for this. Gordon is perfect for the system where our defense begins with the attackers. Also good on us to grab Bayern's target while we're at it. Let's approach Kane just to annoy Uli. By the way, speaking of Bayern, which is hilarious, 2 days ago, I was going to report about this, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to give that another old unhinged man the attention that he doesn't deserve, because the president of Bayern once again came out and said they asked him about Harry Kane, and Barcelona, being interested in him, even though Barcelona moved on from that Kane signing because they know he wants to stay. And he said, well, they don't have money, so we're not worried. But here's a funny thing. The last time he said that was when Barcelona were being linked to Lewandowski. And what happened? We signed Lewandowski. So he goes and says Barcelona don't have the money, so we're not worried. And what does Barca do? They take Lewy away from them. Now, a few days ago, the guy says the same thing. Barcelona don't have any money. And what does Barca do? They go and take away Anthony Gordon from them. Obviously, Anthony Gordon wasn't a Bayern player, but Bayern were very interested in signing him. So, what's the lesson here, president of Bayern Munich? That it's best to shut the fuck up. That's just a good advice. Sanjog, what up, Sanjog? Says Newcastle, let's do 70 million. Deco, why don't we do 80? I think it was always 80. My understanding is when Deco met with the agent of Anthony Gordon 3 weeks ago, which again, I reported about it. Yes, I am proud of myself. That just goes to show you that I'm not here to sell you on BS. I'm not here to tell you, oh, hey guys, Barcelona are set to sign Haaland next week. I only give you reliable news. So much so that I'm actually going to share this with you. Because voila, look at this right here. Where I'm even going to make this bigger. Wow. 3 weeks ago, Deco meets Anthony Gordon's agent. 3 weeks ago, right here. Right here. Can we see the exact date?
Selling.
Whoa, chill. I'm not trying to watch it. May 5th. May 5th, 2026. You heard it here first. Barcelona, or Deco, I should say, met with Anthony Gordon's agent. You heard it here first. Anyways, enough about bumping my chest. Back to the comment. Zicomont of Sanjog. So my understanding is during that meeting, Anthony Gordon's agent told Deco, that's what's going to cost. That's what Newcastle were going to ask for, which was 80 million. Rebel Pilot says apparently Deco is still aiming to sign a striker. Let's see if he's true on his word. Yes, this is not the end. This is only the beginning. And Night Game says Barcelona's attackers next season: Lamine, Rafinha, Julián, Ferran, Rashford, Anthony Gordon, Fermin, Dani, Rooney. So here's the thing. I don't know if Rashford's going to stay. I mean, where would we put him? Unless the idea for Anthony Gordon is to be our center forward. But my understanding is Barcelona is still going to pursue Joao Pedro and Julián for the number 9. So I don't see Anthony Gordon being the center forward. So if we do bring Rashford, I mean, we're going to have 3 left wingers, Rafinha, Rashford, and Gordon. So I don't know where this leaves Rashford. I feel like this means goodbye Rashford. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see where he would fit. But again, maybe the plan is different. Dr. Knight says, frankly speaking, I don't really see anything special about Gordon. I have no idea how we are going to sign a striker, but since it's been spread over 5 years, we'll take it like that. I said I like it like that. I think it's a good signing. But, of course, time will tell. Time will tell. And Chamod says, hey, Mo, bless up to you and your family. Happy belated birthday, Marshall. What a day for Barca fans. Amen, my friend, and thank you. Marshall definitely thanks you for the birthday wishes. Barca Newsboy says, Deco and Laporta moving wild. I think Gordon will do better than Rashford in his first season. I think so, too. I have a feeling that Gordon could offer us more than Rashford. Because let's not forget, Gordon is 25, Rashford's 29. So that right there gives us more longevity, right? As opposed to keeping Rashford on a 5-year contract, that means he will be with us until 34. I'd rather have a 25-year-old go until 29 than a 29-year-old going to 34 while with us. Let's see. Gulam says maybe we overpaid by 5 to 10 mil, but the optics matter. We look to the world by storm, getting the deal with a day, and is a good statement that we are back. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I do think we overpaid a little bit. I think I would have preferred 50 to 60 mil as opposed to 80. But yes, this is definitely a statement of we're here. We're a big player in this market, and we're here to make a splash. Dorian says, "Bye bye Rashford. We won't be missing you." Again, I don't have official confirmation if that means the end of Rashford, but it looks like it will. It will be, right? Blorana X says the excitement for next season is insane. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. And Cornell, who says, Mo, what's good, bro? Glad I got the chance to catch you. I got the chance to catch you tonight. The offseason is hot early. Hope we're making the right moves in the market. Bisca Barca, bro. I'll tell you what, though. Wrapping up Gordon before the World Cup could be a good move. No, it could end up being a bad move, but I'll tell you why. But it could be a good move because if Anthony Gordon goes and has one hell of a World Cup and scores a hat trick every single match he plays, I'm being, of course, I'm exaggerating here. It could mean, that we just saved ourselves a lot of money, right? But it could also end up being bad because what if he goes and have a terrible World Cup and his value actually declines, right? But let's hope it's the latter. Let's hope he has or the former, I should say. He has an amazing World Cup and this ends up being a great move because we wrapped it up before his value skyrockets. Because, World Cup, it does that. If you have a good World Cup, your value just automatically skyrockets. Let's do one more comment and then we'll get back to the news because we do have to talk about the Julian Alvarez move. Let's see. Ami says, happy to catch you live from Omi. Golden boy from Burundi. Let's go, Burundi. I think you're the first one to comment on the live from Burundi. I love it. I love it. And Not the Gamer says, I don't know how to feel about Anthony Gordon. Why didn't we wait to sell Ferran and have 100 million in the bank? Ferran is not looking to leave. So, you can't sell players who don't want to leave. And we do have a donation. Thank you, Sanjuk, for the donation. As always, always, always very, very generous of you. But Sanjuk says, I understand where Anthony Gordon's signing comes from. If Lamine or Rafinha get injured, and it happens a lot during Champions League, he would be an amazing backup. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because right now we don't have backups for them, right? When Rafinha was injured, Rashford, we tried it, did it work? We had Fermin play there, which, he does well, but he's not really a winger. And then when Lamine is injured, forget about it. We tried Rooney, but obviously Rooney Bardghji is nowhere close to being there. But anyways, all right, let's continue. What else? Oh, my man Ross, who I haven't seen in a long-ass time. What's up, Ross? Says, hi, Mo, long time. Just got back from Canada, slowly moving there. Gordon and spicy, I tell you, Mo. And let's not forget what Flick did with Rafinha coming from an almost relegated team, Bisca Barca. Amen, my friends. Wow, that's a big move, man. California to Canada. I mean, I guess they both start with the C's, so maybe not so much. Just kidding. But that's amazing, man. Congrats. I wish you lots of success and good luck in Canada. As far as that, yeah, man. I mean, look, if Flick can turn Gerard Martin, a nobody, into an incredible center back, you can only imagine what he will do with Anthony Gordon, as opposed to with Anthony Gordon and Barcelona. And as Jeff says, by that logic, we should sign anyone who plays well against us, or we just sign a player who dropped in the past 2 years for 80 mil. We need a creator like Yamal. I mean, did I say we should sign anyone who played against us? No, I said Anthony Gordon did well against us, and from what I saw, he looks like a good fit. But if that's the conclusion you want to reach on your own, power to you, my friend. You can conclude whatever you want. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news because we do have to talk about Julian Alvarez because, yes, we do have developments on that front. As I mentioned a few moments ago, the signing of Anthony Gordon is not the end of Barcelona's summer transfer market. It is only the beginning. Barcelona will sign more players. As you know, Barcelona, initially they had a 150 million euro budget for this summer. Anthony Gordon, 70 million. Of course, there's 10 million in variables, but that gets paid later. So let's say 70 million right now. That still leaves us with 80 million to spend in the summer transfer market, not counting any sales. Remember, any player that we sell, that's an extra to our budget. If Monaco end up activating the 11 million euros for Ansu Fati, our budget is no longer 150. Now it's 161, minus obviously the 70 for Gordon, right? If Barcelona sell another player, same thing, right? So right now it's 150 million minus the 70. We'll still got 80 million to spend, plus any more money that we might get from players. If Abde, for example, he makes a move, Barcelona would get 20% of that, right? So there's still room for Barcelona's budget to grow. But even if it doesn't, we still have 80 million left to spend, which means the summer transfer market is far from being over. I cannot stress that enough. And in fact, Barcelona will continue to work on the signings of Joao Pedro and Julián or Julian Alvarez. They're going to work on them simultaneously, but only one will be signed. I want to make that clear. I don't want anyone to take the wrong impression from this podcast. Say, Mo said Barca's going to sign both Julián and Joao Pedro. No. That's not what's going to happen. It's one or the other, but Barcelona are going to work on both operations simultaneously because both operations are going to take a lot of work. Why? Because Chelsea have said Joao Pedro is untouchable. They won't even set a price for him. So that's going to take some work. We talked about how Deco met with Joao Pedro and his agent yesterday in London. If you want more details, check out yesterday's podcast. But I'm not here to talk about Joao Pedro. I'm here to talk about Julián because we have more developments, and these developments are coming at us faster than we can say developments. Is saying development something that's pretty fast? I think so. Anyways, now, 2 weeks ago, if you would have asked me, Mo, is the Julián Alvarez signing possible? I would have said, hell no. In fact, I said it a million times. Someone even said, Mo, you sound like you don't want this. I'm like, no, it's not that I don't want it. I got to be realistic with you, right? If you told me we're going to sign Haaland tomorrow, I'll be like, you're full of shit. Does that mean I don't want Haaland? No, of course. I would love to have Haaland as our 9. But let's be honest, it's not possible. So if you asked me 2 weeks ago, is the Julián signing possible? I would have said, hell no. But a lot of things have changed since 2 weeks ago. For starters, Julián told Atletico Madrid that he had doubts about the project. Of course he will. It's a trash team. Just kidding. Well, they are. Anyways. Then, Julián Alvarez was decided that he wasn't going to renew with Atlético. Another step towards his exit. And now, Atlético Madrid are changing their stance from Julián is not for sale to that they are open to selling him. And in fact, they're looking to do this quickly. Why is that? Because Julián doesn't want to stay there. That is clear as day. He doesn't want to renew. He's expressed doubts directly to them. This is not, oh, I told the press and the press told. No. He literally met with them and expressed doubts about the project. But, you can say, well, doubts, anybody can have doubts, but it's okay. No. Then he said, I'm not renewing, even though they were trying to offer him a contract where he would be the highest paid player on the squad. So this clearly means he doesn't want to stay. And what happens with players who don't want to stay? Well, clubs don't want them, right? You don't want a player who doesn't want to be on your squad. So Atletico Madrid are not only looking to sell him, but now they're also looking to do it quick. Why quick? Because Atletico Madrid need to plan their summer. They need to figure out, can we count on this guy? Can we not count on this guy? And if we cannot count on Julián, who's going to be his substitute? We got to move quick to try to get that substitute because players move around quickly in the summer. Nobody wants to wait until the final days. So Atletico Madrid are now gone from he's not for sale to he's for sale, and let's do it quickly so we can plan our summer properly. So this is a big development. So now the signing of Julián Alvarez no longer looks impossible. Now it's possible. Is it going to happen? That's another story. But it's more possible than it was yesterday, and it's more possible than it was the day before. Now, what's the biggest hurdle still? Well, the biggest hurdle still is that Atletico Madrid have reiterated their stance, 150 mil or nothing, right? And that, of course, is too much for Barca. It's not a figure that Barcelona could afford paying. Now, that's their public stance. Atletico Madrid's public stance is Julián, 150 or nothing, or bust. Internally, sources close to the club are saying there's actually a debate going on within their board. The debate is not everybody's in favor of the strict position of 150 or bust. There are some people within the Atletico Madrid management that think that maybe they should be open to negotiating. Why? Because you have a player who doesn't want to stay, who wants to leave, that you need to sell quickly to plan your summer. By maintaining a firm position of 150 or bust, you're going to delay things and you're going to turn away clubs that would be willing to pay good money for him, but perhaps maybe not 150. So isn't it better to be open and negotiate in that way? You can A, sell them quickly like you want to begin with, and B, have that cash available for Matteo Alemany, their sporting director, to be able to go and spend in the summer transfer market, whether it be on Julián's replacement or reinforcements or hookers and cocaine, whatever it may be, right? So, Atletico Madrid have gone, he's not for sale, he's untouchable. So we're open to sell, and we got to do it quickly. To now there's debate internally on whether they should maintain a strict 150 million or bust versus let's be open for negotiations. So the needle is slowly moving towards this signing becoming a possibility. Will it happen? I don't know. Because again, the price remains a problem. But I think now Barcelona are in a much better position to negotiate. Barcelona now can go to Atlético and say, hey, you guys said this guy is untouchable, but he doesn't even want to be at your club. You need to sell him. You need to sell him quickly. Sell him to me. And by the way, I already signed Anthony Gordon. So if you don't want to sell him to me, that's also okay. You're the one stuck with a player who doesn't want to be at your club. So now Barcelona has a much more favorable stance when they go to the negotiating table. Now, of course, there are other problems. PSG, Arsenal remain very strongly interested in Julián. And as we know, they have deeper pockets than us. So, is this signing seem as impossible as it did 2 weeks ago? No, it's a lot more probable. But it's still going to be a challenging signing because of the price and because there are other clubs who are willing to pay that price and more because, well, they have the ability to do so. But overall, it's looking more favorable and looking more like a possibility. We'll see if Barcelona can pull it off or whether Barcelona end up going for Joao Pedro, which is also not going to be easy because, again, Chelsea don't want to sell him. But Barcelona looking to force that transfer. So exciting summer. Who would have known? Who would have guessed that we would have this summer? People told us, no, you're broke. You're going to end up signing nobody. By the way, they tell us that every summer. And every summer, Barcelona somehow, some way, they make signings. Anyways, let's go back to the comment section. And then we're going to talk about an academy kid who could be leaving this summer transfer market. Hopefully not. But we do have another donation. Thank you so much for your generosity. The R9 Gaming. Thank you so much, my friend, for supporting the channel. But the R9 Gaming says, keeping in mind how much Deco pushed for Brazilian and Portuguese players, I'm surprised by how quickly he went for Gordon. I wonder if something happened that explains a possible change in Deco. Happened. What's BTS? The Korean pop band? But yeah, I don't know. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe Anthony Gordon is half Brazilian. Maybe his mom is Brazilian or something. And that's why Deco went for it quickly because, yeah, for a while it seemed like the only players Deco knew were Brazilians, which obviously is, an expert in the Brazilian market. He worked, he represented a lot of Brazilian players back when he was an Asian. But it's like, when you have a sporting director of a team as big as Barca, you expect them to be an expert of all markets. You can't just focus on one because you're limiting your pool. But yeah, for a period of time, it really did look like all players that Deco wanted or were interested in or anything. It was Brazilians. But who knows? Maybe Anthony Gordon is maybe he's Anthony Gordinho. No, that's it's not an Italian, but it could be Brazilian. Gordinho. Anthony Rodinho. There you go. That's more Brazilian. And the R9 Gaming also became a member. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Thank you so much, my friends, for your donation and for becoming a member. That's incredibly, incredibly generous for you. I really, really appreciate your support of the channel. It's people like you who keep this channel going. Let's go. All right, let's continue with the comments. Biska Michael, who says, instead of Gordon, we should have gone for Barcola. But I do like Gordon's versatility, especially in attack. Plus, he outscored Haaland in the Champions League this past season, so he can't be worse than Rashi. True. You know what? I do like Barcola. But not, I think I would have preferred Barcola too, but I don't know. I'm still excited about the Anthony Gordon signing, It's not like we skipped over Barcola to bring, I don't know, some bum, right? But, yeah, I think I would have liked Barcola. That would have been cool. Let's see. Leo Ford says, Mo isn't a CB crucial for us as well, but based on our spending so far, 80 for Gordon, they plan to keep Rashford, that's 20 to 30. They might resign Cancelo, 10 mil, that's over 100 mil. Again, I don't know what the story is with Rashford. I cannot tell you we for sure gonna keep him or we're for sure getting rid of him. I haven't seen confirmation, at least, of what's going to happen with Rashford. As of now, and this is just my hunch, this is just my guess, this is not information. I want to be very clear about this. As of now, if I had to guess, I would say Rashford is donezo. I don't know. But again, this is just me guessing. This is not official information. Humphrey says, it's great signing in my opinion, and I think we should let Marcus Rashford go. We also need at least one defender. This is Humphrey from Nigeria. You're doing an absolutely great job. Biscal Barca, my friend. Thank you for your comment. Yes, I do agree we need to let Rashford go. Thank you, Rashi. Your services are no longer needed. But as far as defender, Flick made it very clear. His priority is someone that can score goals. Obviously, that's not what a center back does, right? That's the main priority. If we can bring a center forward, great. If not, Rashford, Flick is okay with that. Which, of course, it goes to my point that I've made a million times on the channel, that I truly think Barca's problem is more of an offensive one than a defensive one. Because, conceding goals, like I've explained a million times, we're going to concede goals. There's no way around it. It's just how we play. We attack with the entire team. Our defenders are set up at the middle of the field. We're going to concede. But conceding is not a problem if you outscore your opponent. And the problem is a lot of times we haven't been able to outscore our opponent because we don't have the firepower. Right? We have Ferran. We have Rashford, who's very inconsistent. And Rafinha, when he's injured, we don't have a substitute. When Lamine is injured, we don't have a substitute. We didn't have firepower up there. So if you're risking conceding goals and you're not scoring them, then why are we risking conceding goals? So we need more firepower. That's our problem, is we need more players that can score goals. And that's why Flick is focusing on the attack. He wants someone that can score goals. Obviously, center backs, that's not their job, right? Scarf Lord says, hey, Mo Gordon was a surprise, but great to see Barca acted decisively. Not sure about him, but I trust Flick. I trust the process. Biscal Barca. I think that's the best way to put it. If this signing has Flick's blessing, honestly, that's all I need to know. Flick hasn't given me any reason to doubt him. So if Flick says Anthony Gordon, go for it, good signing, then that's it. If Flick tomorrow says, I don't know. What's that guy? That really terrible Manchester United Maguire. If Flick tomorrow says, I want Maguire, I'll be like, fuck it, give him Maguire. Like, that guy's trash. But hey, if Flick thinks it'd be a good signing, go for it. Go for it. As long as Flick thinks it'd be a good signing, I'm all for it. Let's see. Poor Maguire. He gets made fun of a lot. Kiss my axe. Whoa. Why do you want me to kiss your axe, bro? That's weird. Seeing people linking Nicholas Jackson to Barca, I'd cry if that happens. No. No links there. The reason why it got linked because Deco met with the agent of Michael. I was gonna say Michael Jackson. Nicholas Jackson. But that was a general meeting between a sporting director and an agent to just discuss the market, situation of players, and that guy represents a lot of players, and one of them was Nicholas Jackson. So because that meeting happened, people were like, "All right, it's about Nicholas Jackson," but it wasn't. It wasn't. That was just a general meeting. Sporting directors have meetings with agents all the time. General meetings like those, like, "Hey, what's going on in the market?" Okay, well, my players, this guy wants to stay, this guy wants to go, this guy's about to get signed by that club. And then obviously agents also know about the situation of other players because it's their job. So it's like, that's what those meetings are about. Let's do one more comment and then we'll move on to the next bit of news. We're gonna talk about an academy player that could be leaving. Hopefully not. But Ziggy says 17 we already archived. Oh, achieved. I think that's what he meant, right? The 1-1 rule, right? Plus we got some Arab money now to spend. Jokes on Bayern. So we are set to achieve the 1-1. It's not official yet because the fiscal year ends on June 30th. So that's when you start a new cycle, right? June 30th, all the clubs will submit their paperwork, how much money they made, how much money they spend, how much money they're spending on salaries, signings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. La Liga will analyze it and be like, all right, this is how much you can spend. And I'll tell each club. So that's when Barcelona expect to be under the 1-1 rule. Now, if you're wondering, well, how does Gordon fit in this whole situation? Well, the summer transfer market is not open, right? The agreement is reached, paperwork's going to get signed, but it's not going to get submitted officially as a transfer to La Liga until the summer transfer market opens, which would be, I think it's after June 30th. Let me see. La Liga summer transfer window 2026. Let's see. La Liga, the summer transfer window opens on July 1st. So the actual signing will not be presented to La Liga until after then, right? Once the summer transfer window is officially open. Right now is the agreement with the player, with the club. If he passes medical exam, all the paperwork gets signed, you're good to go. And then technically under La Liga's law or purview, that technically signing hasn't happened yet. Until once the window opens, Barca submits the paperwork. Look here, agreement, contract all signed, we're good to go. Then he becomes an official transfer under La Liga, right? So I hope that clarifies any confusion that might result from, well, how does this fit if we're not under the 1-1 yet? Anyways, let's move on. I know there's a lot of comments, a lot of action in the chat section. I fucking love it. Drop those comments. Anyways, let's talk about the next bit of news. This one is not as good news. Well, it's not good news. But we do have to talk about an academy player, an incredibly promising academy player who could be leaving during this summer transfer market. And well, it's no other than Toni Fernandez, one of the Fernandez cousins. As you know, his cousin Guille Fernandez also is part of the academy. Now, Toni Fernandez, 17 years old, right winger, a La Masia product. He's been a La Masia since he was a kid. Someone that he was one of the first names that Hansi Flick mentioned during his first press conference back in 2024 when Barcelona signed him. Because, of course, Toni Fernandez is someone that has been showing a lot of promise for quite some time. In fact, he's participated in 2 preseasons with the first team. He's trained with the first team. He's even debuted with the first team. A player that, again, has lots of potential, lots of promise, but unfortunately hasn't seen a lot of minutes. Now, what's the problem with Toni Fernandez is he does have a lot of potential. However, he hasn't developed enough to get the minutes at the first team while simultaneously having outgrown Barca Atlético. And that's the problem, right, of having a reserve team that plays in 4th division. This is why when Barca Atlético got relegated from 3rd to 4th division, that was a problem because Sure, like on paper, you might think, I don't know, it's a reserve team. Who cares where they play? But it matters. It matters for the development of players because there's a difference, big difference of having your players developing in third division as opposed to fourth. So on one hand, you have Toni Fernandez, who has outgrown Barca Athletic. So he's not going to continue development at Barca Athletic because it's not a challenge to him anymore. He's outgrown that level. But at the same time, he hasn't grown enough to where he could be in the first team. So you're kind of stuck now in this gray area where you need him to grow to make it to the first team, but he cannot grow to make it to the first team because he's outgrown Barca Athletic. So what's the solution? Well, this is where Sevilla comes in. As you know, Sevilla are in the process of being bought by Sergio Ramos and an investment group. And the whole point of Sergio Ramos and this investment group buying Sevilla is to inject cash into it and make it a competitive team. You know, for people who haven't been watching La Liga for that long, Sevilla back in the day used to be a big team. You know, it used to be, Sevilla used to win cups and leagues, right? It was, this is like fast forward 20 years and I don't know, Atletico Madrid is in fighting for relegation. You'd be like, whoa, what the hell happened, right? Kind of like that. So Sergio Ramos and its investment group want to bring back Sevilla to be, a competitive team again, a team that can qualify to European competitions, a team that can be at the top of the table in La Liga. And doing that, of course, would mean investing in players who can improve the team. And one of those players that Ramos and this new investment group are eyeing is Toni Fernandez. Now, we don't know yet Barcelona's stance on this. On one hand, Barcelona, of course, they do want Toni to get the minutes he needs. But he can't get it at the first team because, again, he's not quite there yet. But I don't know if Barcelona would be open to selling Toni. Now, I would prefer not to. I think the best solution would be to send Toni Fernandez to Sevilla on loan. He can help him for a full season. In that season, he could get the minutes that he needs to grow and develop in first division. And that way, he can come back to Barca having grown enough to be able to get minutes on the first team. I would hate to see us sell Toni Fernandez because, again, he's an incredibly talented player with lots of potential. But we are going to have to see and wait. I just know Sevilla interested in Toni. We'll see what Barcelona do with him. Again, I hope it's just a loan or if we're going to sell him at least with a buyback option, but we're going to have to wait and see. Anyways, let's get back to the comment section today. We are going to talk about a French center back that's being linked with Barcelona. You guys thought that Anthony Gordon was the only news I had for you. You are mistaken, my friends. I got more. Mo news. That's why my name is Mo, because I bring you Mo news. Hey, I just thought about that. It's not very clever, but I like it. Tito Sosa says, hey, Mo, Real fans are criticizing the 80 million price tag for Gordon, but yeah, they forget all the money they wasted last year only to go trophyless again, Vizca Barca. I have seen those posts on Twitter, which, by the way, I thought were absolutely hilarious. It's like, the pot, what is it, the kettle calling the pot black or the pot calling the kettle black? One of those two. Because I'm like, all right, let's review. Kylian Mbappe. They say it was free. It's not free, okay? It's been clearly established that, yeah, they didn't pay PSG money, so I guess it is a free transfer, but they had to pay Mbappe 120 million euro signing bonus. 120 million euro signing bonus. Then they went on to spend another 180 million last summer on Huijsen, on Mastantuono, on Alvaro Carreras. So in total, they spent 300 million to go trophyless. 2 seasons in a row. Can you imagine being this stupid? Spending 300 million to go trophyless. When they could have done that for free, by the way. You can always go trophyless for free. No, they spent 300 million to go trophyless. But they want to talk about Gordon's price? Bruh. You should probably call the leg warehouse because you need a leg to stand on. Because this is insane. 300 million to go trophyless, and they're criticizing 80 million for Gordon. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. All right, let's see. What else? DJ Callan Music says we need to be banned from transfer for 20 years. How the hell we sign an average player for 70 mil? Calm down, bro. Calm down. Chill. Have a drink. Edwin says, or Edwink, because he's an Edwin that winks. He goes, hi, my name is Edwin. Wink. Just kidding. Do Gordon's wages stay the same since he still has 4 years on his deal, or does it get renegotiated with Barca? That gets renegotiated, right? It's a new contract, new club. If you were, McDonald's and you hire a worker from Burger King, it's not gonna be like, oh well, Burger King, my wages. Completely new company, technically, right? Football club. You negotiate your own terms, and then this is why Barcelona they first reached a personal agreement with Gordon. And they agreed on a 5-year contract, salary, bonus, blah, blah. You agree on everything between you and the player. Once you have that agreement in place, then Barca went to Newcastle. We're like, all right, how much do you want for this guy? And that's when they, ended up reaching an agreement there as well. Let me see. 123 says, I think most people are grateful to Rashford, but he should leave after his loan since we are more down than up performance and his wages is very high for a backup player. I agree, my friend. I agree. Let's see what else. Gabriel says, hey Mo, why is it that most of our fans are being so ungrateful to Rashford? This is a guy who was just a backup. I guess his goal assist. He hit a whopping 24 goals. I mean, look, man, we could be grateful while still not wanting that signing. This whole idea that we should be so grateful to a player because he scored goals and we gotta kiss his feet. Bro, he got paid for that. It's not like Marcus Rashford came to the club and volunteered to play for free and scored the 24 goals and assists, and now we got to, owe our lives to him. No, that's his job. He got paid for it. Now, he did his job. He got paid. That's it, right? That doesn't mean that just because someone comes to the club and, scores goals and provides assists, all of a sudden we need to keep him on a permanent transfer. I mean, Rashford is a highly inconsistent player. Sure, he has 24 goals and assists. You know who also has that? Well, actually, more than that, Ferran. Does that mean all of a sudden Ferran is a star? No, it doesn't. He's inconsistent. We saw it. Lots of ups and downs, and we can't have that. So we can still be grateful that Rashford came and scored those 24 goals and assists, but that doesn't mean all of a sudden we're like, we owe him our lives and we have to sign him. No, we need players who are consistent. Because you cannot win the Champions League and trophies with inconsistent players. You cannot be waiting on a player to finally have a great match. We need players who are constantly performing. So, anyways, Marcus says, Flick, now, what's he doing, I believe. Wait, Flick, no, not now. Flick knows what he's doing. I believe that Deco and Laporta are cooking something. Cooking. Ooh, that reminds me. I'm really hungry. All right, let's do one more, and then we got to do the last bit of news. Richard says, greetings, fellow culés. Gordon is a true velociraptor of attacking football. I think he'll start as a center forward to initiate the first pressure on the opposing goalkeeper and central defenders. Could be. I'm very interested to see what the plan is there, because he can't play as a center forward. He can't play as a left winger. We'll see. Let's see. And Crete says, I agree, Olmo was the difference in a lot of league games. Not the best signing, but important. I think DJ is a Madrid fan in the chat. Did Olmo make a difference in some matches? Yes, but not enough for me to be convinced. Again, it's not about having one great match or two great matches. Anybody can have that. Mathematically speaking, even the worst player in La Liga can end up having a great match. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're great enough for Barca. What separates players who are able to play for Barca and big clubs like Barca is how many great matches can you have? Is it 1 out of 10? No. 7, 8 out of 10, right? That's the difference between a player who's good enough for Rayo Vallecano versus a player who's good enough for Barca, right? A player who's good enough for a bottom-of-the-table team might have one great match every 10 or 15 matches. A Good player for Barca is someone that has 7, 8 great matches out of 10. Not 10 out of 10. That's impossible. These are human beings, not robots. Even Messi has bad matches, but that's the difference. So, did Olmo make a difference in some matches? Yes. So did Ferran. So did Rashford. That doesn't all of a sudden make them great players, right? What makes a player great is the consistency, how many matches they can really be great. And for me, Rashford and Ferran, very consistent. So is Olmo, maybe not as much as them. But, looking at one man, oh, look how great he was in them. That's not enough. Because, remember when we signed Braithwaite? I think he scored a double or a hat trick his first match. Oh, great match, great. Should have kept it. Again, it's not about that 1 or 2 or 3 great matches, how many total you can have a season. Anyways, let's do the last bit of news. I know this is getting out of hand. I'm talking too much. But let's do the last bit of news because L'Equipe, the French media outlet, is reporting that Barcelona are interested in Jaydee Canvot. Now, if you don't know who Jaydee Canvot is, he's a 19-year-old center back who Crystal Palace signed last summer from Toulouse for 23 million euros. He has a contract with Crystal Palace until 2029. He had a pretty good breakthrough season with Crystal Palace, playing 37 matches. And in fact, it's expected that he will be starting this weekend in the final between Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano. Speaking of the devil, in the Conference League, which, by the way, that's huge. Rayo Vallecano in the final of a Conference League. That's pretty cool. Hopefully they can win. That'd be nice to bring a European title back to Spain, even if it's not the Champions League. But nonetheless, L'Equipe are reporting that both Barcelona and PSG are tracking and interested in this player. Now, this source does come from L'Equipe, which usually they are pretty reliable source when it comes to French players. But as far as I know, I haven't been able to verify this from any Barca sources, so I don't know how much truth or veracity there is. I mean, it could be very well that Barcelona are tracking him, are keeping an eye on this guy. But to say that Barcelona will sign this, it's a little bit of, I don't know, to me, it's a little bit of a stretch because, again, Crystal Palace paid 23 million euros last summer. His value has gone up, so they're going to want, by 40, 50. You know how these Premier League clubs are. And of course, given that the center back position right now is taking a second seat to the attack, and given that Canvot is 19 years old, I just don't see this as a signing that would happen this summer. If Barcelona were to sign a center back, once they're done with the center forward and the left wing, they're gonna want someone with experience because to have young, inexperienced kids, we already have that, right? What we need is to inject experience into our back line, and this is not it. Now, can JD maybe be an option for the future? Sure. Do I see this happening this summer? Not really. Not really. But anyways, that's the news. L'Equipe linking Jaydee Canvot to Barcelona. 19 years old, center back, playing for Crystal Palace. And with that, that's a wrap. Let's do some comments. And then we will end this podcast, which, by the way, incredible podcast. I think we hit 600 viewers at one time right now. So that was absolutely amazing. I think that's the most we've had on a podcast. And, of course, the chat section, which has been blowing up. I absolutely love it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching the podcast, for being here, for dropping comments. It's absolutely amazing. But anyways, wait. Crystal Palace already won today? Oh, shit. I had no idea. See, that's how much I know about Conference League. Let's see. I thought it was the weekend, no? Crystal Palace. Oh, shit, they did win today. Wow. See, that's how much I follow the Conference League. But yeah, all right, 1-0. Congratulations to Crystal Palace. I don't care about either team, but it would have been nice to see Rayo Vallecano win it. But 1-0, that's not a bad way to go out. It's not like they got a blowout. They got blown out. But let's see. Rayo Vallecano, how did they finish the season? They finished in 8th. Finish 8th. All right. Well, thank you for that, my friend. I had no idea that the Europa League was today. For some reason, I thought it was this weekend. Let's see. Gabriel says, look, Mo, you're one of my best podcasts, but I disagree with you on the Rashford argument. That's fine, my friend. You are more than welcome to disagree. Mavis says, Gordon is most certainly not 10 times better than Rashford. A lot of podcasts in England are amazed Barcelona want him, as are Newcastle fans. I don't think anyone claimed that's 10 times better. Let's see. Vala says, is Rafinha leaving? This much spending could mean something big might be happening. 80 mil is more than half what we were set to spend this summer. Transfer window in total. Not to my knowledge. As far as I know, Rafinha wants to stay. Flick wants him to stay. And I hope he stays. But as far as I know, no. I haven't heard anything about Rafinha wanting to leave. Sugar Ray says Gordon scored goals all season in Prem. Brother, he is not consistent. Casemiro scored more playing defensive mid. Let's see. All right, so we got some mixed feelings about Gordon. Some people happy, some people not. Takara says, I feel like Barca signed Gordon just to clown on Bayern's president. The signing makes no sense to me, but maybe Flick and Deco are playing 4D chess. Maybe. Let's see. Love T says we're going to end up like Real Madrid, trophyless. Well, chill, bro. Why you want us to end up trophyless? You okay? Someone hurt you? Was your ex-girlfriend a Barca fan? Chill. Israel Adams says, would hate to lose. Lose is 1-0, my friend. Loose with 2 O's. That's loose. Would hate to lose Toni. I hope he goes on a loan or sale with buyback clause. Same, my friend. Same. Let's see what else. Stefan says it will be a long season, especially after the World Cup. We sure need backups for every position, and Flick is aware of that. Indeed. You know, it's always troublesome when you have a World Cup. I mean, it's fun. We all enjoy it. We all love to watch the World Cup. But yeah, you're thinking about these players just finished playing 4 competitions in the whole season, and now they got to go train with their team, with national teams, play friendly matches, then start the World Cup, then finish the World Cup and fly back to their clubs to start the preseason. So this is really when fitness specialists at clubs get to shine, right? This is where planning is going to have to be done very well, and teams are going to have to know how to handle this, right? How to rotate players, how to help their players recover, because yeah, it is going to be a long season. It really is. Let's see what else. Wow says, hey, what happened to the Portuguese? Oh, hold on, it's not showing. There you go. What happened to the Portuguese wonder kid Cardoso Varela? There's an agreement in place to sign him, not this summer, if I'm not mistaken. It's next summer. You know, it's kind of like it was an agreement to like, all right, we'll sign you, but you like we want to sign you, but to stay 2 seasons at whatever Croatian team he's at, I forgot, so he can continue growing and developing, and then bring him later. Deco has been checking on him. He actually recently flew to see Cardoso Varela. I made a video about it. So yeah. Tito says Jaydee Alvarez wanted to go to PSG, France, after Messi's experience there. I mean, but we're talking about 2 different PSGs, right? When Messi was there as opposed to now. Now we're talking about a PSG that just won a sextuple last season. Now they could be winning another Champions League, 2 Champions League back-to-back. I mean, it's a completely different PSG than the one that Messi went to. Ross, who says Gordon is top 3 scorer in the Champions League this season. He sure is. 10 goals and 2 assists in the Champions League. AG says, I don't know, but I'm nervous about the price tag. 80 mil, baby. It's just that I'm not used to Barca spending big anymore. I'm not going to lie. 80 million worries me a little bit. Worries me. Hancho says, it's crazy. Everyone is a GM now. Let them cook transfer window, not event open. Let's just wait and see. I mean, look, everybody's free to opine, right? I mean, yeah, sure, we're not scouts. We're not coaches. Well, it doesn't mean we can't have opinions and say, hey, I like this signing or I don't like this signing. But yeah. And finally, we'll do the last comment and then we'll wrap this up. It says, Johnny, are we selling Kunde? With Kunde, it's not they plan to put him on the market. But if Barcelona receive a big offer for him, they would consider it. But it would also obviously depend on the player wanting to leave or not. Now, Kunde, they saying he left 10 or 15 minutes after the dinner began. That dinner that the club organized for the players, the staff, for being champions of La Liga. He also missed the last few trainings, the last match against Valencia. So some people have said that this is maybe a sign that Kunde is distancing himself from the locker room because there could be movement. But as of now, nothing is confirmed. Everything is just rumors. We'll see. We'll see. Anyways. Barca Reloaded says, none of my comments got read today. I'll just read your last one. Even though if it's the one that says none of my comments get read. Let's see. I'm going to read the one before that. There we go. I don't want to exclude anyone. Barca Reloaded says, so many Rashford Glazers here. You have no idea how grateful I am that fans aren't responsible for transfers because we'd end up with Jackson, Martinelli, Garnacho, Nunez. One thing I have noticed, and this is obviously in general, any sport, not just Barca, any club, any sport, but people are, fans tend to be fickle. They quickly change opinions, right? For example, there's a lot of people who are like, Rashford needs to go. Then the Clásico comes, he scores a goal. We got to keep Rashford, right? And it's like, it happens with all players, all clubs, all sports. It's like, you have a player who's doing great. We got to keep him. Then the next match, he does bad. He sucks. He needs to go. Then the following match, he does good. Let's keep him. It's like, and it's like, this... It can't be like that. You can't be judging whether a player needs to be signed or sold or kept or loaned or whatever based on one match or two matches. You have to look at, the overall performance over an entire season. Scouts sometimes spend 2-3 seasons watching a player before they decide on whether to sign him or not. Because you can't judge based on one match or two matches. But anyways, that is all. That is all, ladies and gentlemen. Amazing, amazing podcast. And a lot of fun. Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this has been the biggest viewership since the channel started 4 years ago. Thank you. A million times thank you. Thank you for all your comments, for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, Viscars.